Since you've been in publishing for so long, like what are some of the best paths for minorities or just underrepresented people to get into the industry, or how do you think about that?
As a worker or as a published
I think
author?
I'll say more specifically as a worker, and then maybe we can talk about authors as well too.
Mm-hmm. I think I currently teach an intro to publishing course at City College of New York, where I went to school and I took the same course way in the early aughts. And so that was a really, really, really helpful pathway for me. And I want to say I got it with my bachelor's degree,
Hmm.
so that it was a certificate program, but it was one within my undergraduate degree. So it was kind of my minor. And that's kind of what I would recommend. I mean, some of these other certificate programs, you can get a master's in publishing, you can get a certificate in publishing. It's very expensive. And I'd be curious about the rates of success, quote unquote. And if we're measuring success as, and then this is how many people got a job on an annual basis. I'd be curious about that. But I know at City College of New York, because it's a full program and it's very dynamic in terms of publicity, intro, international publishing, digital publishing, like graphic design. Like they really want you to learn these things and give you a full semester to do that. And again, it can be part of your degree so that you can get, if you're already getting scholarships or financial aid, that can be covered,
Yeah, that's good.
rather than you paying a supplementary or additional fee for a master's or thousands of dollars for a 6 to 8 or how many month program. And so in that way, I kind of advocate for that. I think those programs can be helpful for enlightenment. I also think internships are crucial. What's wild now, and it's kind of weird to be that person to be like, in my day, is that the expectations for editorial assistant and even an intern are wild. Like basically what an intern needs to have is what an editorial assistant needed to have
Wow.
years ago, So it's like this level of experience that's expected to get an internship that is a part-time position and hourly. It's wild to me that, it's like you expect this level of experience, expect this now, as where you're going to get it unless you're working. So it's that catch 22. So I definitely say you have to have some form of experience. And if you do want to work for free, that's a choice. I'm not saying yay or nay. I always think people should be paid for their time. But, maybe working with agencies because they tend to have a lot of need for readers, doing that for literary magazines, at least for the editorial space. If you're looking more at production, really understanding attention to detail. It really kind of frustrates me as someone who worked in production for years, that people think, oh, I've graded papers, I can copy edit a book. And I'm just like, no. like no, like, if you take copy editing courses, take proofreading courses, because you're going to be tested on these things. If you're doing an editorial job, you're going to be asked to write copy or a reader's report. And a reader's report is basically a kind of book report, but sales oriented. Like, what is this book about? Why should we buy it? Why shouldn't we buy it? And editorial and editing test will be a copy editing test. They're going to give you a very short test to see if you can catch errors, and how you mark them up and how you follow directions. And for graphic design, maybe there is a test, maybe there isn't, but you should
Mhm.
definitely have a portfolio of some sort and a website if you're doing graphic design, so that people can see what your kind of ideology is and do mock-up covers, just for yourself. Maybe do a class and say, okay, I'm just going to mock up some covers so you can get a sense of how I view understanding content and visual design to come together as a marketing tool for a book. So
Right.
definitely prepare yourself to have some kind of documentation of, I know how to copy edit, I know how to read books, I know how to write jacket copy, I know how to, do this. And publicity and marketing, it might be very different because those aren't as tangible. And so you might be given a lot of quiz questions of like, well, here's the situation, what would you do? Or for marketing, like kind of, oh, give us a sense of this book and how you would build a campaign on it. Or, in publicity, what's this problem, troubleshooting, can you troubleshoot if an author is stuck in an airport and can't get out, and we need them to get to an event tomorrow. Like, what would you do? Or how would you go about, where would you buy flowers if your budget was this? And so those are the kind of questions that people might be want to be attentive to
Yeah.
in terms of entry level specifically. And as you move up, you've built that experience, so you're just having it. But for entry level, get as much as you can, and there are places to do it, but it might be unpaid. And so again, that's why I'm kind of like, if you're an undergrad, maybe these are credits or things you can get in exchange rather than just doing free labor. So
Yeah.
I hope that was helpful.
Oh, that's definitely that was very helpful, and it showed the world and allowed people to understand where they can jump in. So I thank you. I want to shift a little bit into the New York Times article because I thought you played a very important role in that conversation. You talked about the challenges of keeping Black editors in publishing. What do you think needs to change to help like mold that? Because you talked a little bit about mentorship and some of things like that.
I think what's really interesting is coming to any job, right? And you can come into a job and you can have skills or you can have interests or both, and that you don't know the work culture. You don't know the work processes. So it's not necessarily like, I don't know how to do a job. It's, how do y'all do these things? And who's going to train me to tell me how these things happen? And so for me, at least at my experience, again, because I've been in this industry for over a day, I'm like, I know what an editor does. You don't have to tell me how to edit. You have to tell me how much money I have to spend. And you need to tell me what the processes are and who I need to talk to for X, Y, and Z. And I'll say Tracy Sherrod was really great about making sure I got that. But she's also the head.
Yeah.
She's the editorial director. And so she's managing 80 million things and acquiring books and making sure the books are doing budgets and then being asked to be the representative for da 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 and then doing this and in every other meeting. And when does she have time to edit books? When does she have time to do? Where's her support system if she's training all her employees who are coming in? And so you do really kind of need people to just go. You know what I mean? And so that can be frustrating as an employee, right? Of like, no, but I need you to help me. And it's like, I kind of just need you to just get it and go. And sometimes people don't say that in an interview or once you start, they're just like, oh yeah, you'll be fine, right? Okay, bye. Let me know if you have any questions. And then people might be hesitant to ask questions. I am not that person. I'm like, listen, here's my bullet list. Just give me the 10. I've always been that way at work. I'm just like, hi, I have questions. Cause I'm just like, I can't, I can't interpret. I can't be an oracle. I need to just know. And if you don't know, I'm gonna figure it out, but at least I asked you. But not everyone's like that, especially when you start and you want to make a good impression and you might be getting snapped on by people. You're just gonna kind of find all these entryways to get to someplace. And so I was thinking a lot about that, especially as a manager, of like, well, what do you need? What do you need from me to be able to do your job? I say that as a teacher at the CCNY. I was like, if I'm giving you assignments and you're confused, that means I'm not giving you what you need. What do you need? And it's wild how many times people will not want to bother you. And so you have to constantly be like, okay, do you have questions? Do you have this? And if you're working in this super fast business oriented space and people are already feeling kind of way, like, I have to prove myself, I have to prove myself. And I saw that with other people. It was like, I can't ask questions because I have to prove myself. I got brought in at this super high position. I feel dumb. It's embarrassing to ask basic questions. I'm at this high position. I shouldn't have these questions. But it's like, but you haven't done this job. You know what I mean? And I'm like, but I've worked in this industry, so I understand what the job is. And so I don't have those same questions. Mine are very like nitty-gritty questions and like, specific to an entity, but it makes sense that you might have questions about what is expected of me beyond acquire books, beyond edit books. There's so much between that as an acquisitions editor. There's so much between that as a publicist. There's so much between that as a production editor.
Yeah.
And you're setting people up to fail if you're not recognizing they need that awareness of like the exact things of what they need to do and where they can find it and who can help them get it.
If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you head over to www.bookumapp.com to download our app so you can connect with your favorite bookish content creators, start conversations, and start your own book club.